Before utilizing a resistance release, I had really bad target panic, would rush shots on animals consistently, and honestly, shooting my bow wasn't very fun. But after I learned the process of how to shoot a surprise release with the use of a resistance release, I've been able to transfer that skill over to shooting with a thumb button and a hinge as well. There are 4 main release styles that are out on the market today: an index trigger, a thumb trigger, a hinge, and a resistance release. All 4 types can be great for hunting if used properly. The term back tension release is not actually a release. Back tension is the process in which the release is engaged. Back tension can be used in all 4 different release styles, especially in the resistance release that we're talking about today. Over the past couple years, I've really learned to love hunting with a resistance release. I started using one back in summer of 2020 more as a training tool than anything to get me out of some bad habits that I had and some target panic that I was dealing with. After shooting that release all summer long, I gained a ton of confidence in it and decided to use it for hunting as well. Over the past 2 seasons, I've harvested 17 whitetail deer with the resistance release along with 1 bull elk. Some of the main things that this release has really helped me with in hunting situations is slowing down, taking my time, aiming very precisely, and making a clean executed shot and not rushing the shot whatsoever. Before utilizing this release, I would just punch the trigger so fast and I wouldn't really know exactly where I was aiming, and I would usually rush the shots on animals when I know I had more time and didn't have to make such a fast shot. But utilizing this resistance release has really helped me slow down, fine-tune my aiming, pick a spot on the animal, and just relax and pull through the shot cleanly and execute a much better shot. The very first step in learning how to shoot a resistance release for hunting is learning how to use it in the first place. Now, we have a video on our channel here that goes through the entire process of how to properly learn how to shoot this release style. This isn't something you can just pick up and go out hunting with. You need to practice with it for weeks or months before building enough confidence to be able to hunt with it. In my case, I practiced with it for over 3 months before ever taking out hunting. I did a lot of blank bailing, indoors, super close shots, just learning the style of the release and the execution, just getting a ton of confidence in it. So that's absolutely step 1. You have to learn how to shoot this release properly, and I highly encourage you to check out that video, watch the full thing, and go through this process before ever stepping in the woods with this release. Once you are completely confident in using this release style and have hundreds, if not thousands of reps using a resistance release and are totally comfortable using it for hunting, now we need to make a couple fine-tune adjustments that are going to be different from what you did using it for target practice in the learning process, and we're going to need to set this release a little bit heavier. The reason being is because when we're bow hunting and we get an animal in front of us, the adrenaline typically goes through the roof, at least it does for me. So because we have so much adrenaline, we're typically pulling a little bit harder up against that back wall than we may realize when we've got an animal in front of us that we're trying to shoot. So we actually need to set the release a little bit heavier in order for it not to go off as soon as we take our thumb off of the safety. We need a little bit extra time there so the shot timing is similar to how it was on the target range. So my bow is a Hoyt RX7. It's set right about 70 pounds and I've got it at 85% let off. So the holding weight on this bow when I'm at full draw is right around 10.5 pounds. And for starters, you're gonna wanna set your release at least 5 pounds heavier than that, if not a little bit more, when you're training and when you're learning this process. But once you've got it dialed in and you're ready to go hunt, you're gonna wanna set it even heavier than that. I recommend anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds or even more than that. I personally set mine pretty heavy. I actually have my release set somewhere around the 22 to 23 pounds is what it takes to get that release to fire. So that's quite a bit heavier than the 10.5 pounds that I'm holding when I'm drawn back, but I've just learned over the past 2 seasons that my shots typically don't take very long at all on animals. My adrenaline is going, my blood's pumping, and I'm just super excited. So I'm just pulling a lot harder against that back wall than I even realized in the moment. So for that, I need to keep that release a little bit heavier. Like I stated, in the 20s for me. Some people like it a little bit lighter than that, and it all just depends on a multitude of factors, really. So your bow weight is definitely one, your let off is definitely one, and that can be calculated pretty easily. But something that also goes into how quickly this resistance release is going to fire is actually your front stabilizer weight. And I have quite a bit of weight out here on this bar, and it helps me pull that release a little bit quicker just because there's more weight out here. There's just a little bit more leverage when you're pulling back. So that's something that you definitely want to take into consideration. But because I like a little bit more extra weight out front, I like my release set a little bit heavier. That's what I found to work really well for me. But you just need to do a little bit of fine-tune adjustments with your release and find out what works best for you in your shot timing. I would recommend starting out a little bit heavier, like I said, when you're learning it and when you're shooting, because it's pretty amazing what the adrenaline will do to you and how fast that shot can go once you get an animal in front of you. And you don't want the release to fire right when you let off the safety. That's not something that we're looking for. We want to release the safety, be comfortable in the shot, proper shot execution, and have that release go off. So you're gonna have to play around with that just a little bit to see what works best for you. So for this, I like to use just a normal bow scale. I'll put a string in here, preferably the same or very similar to your D-loop material. If you have anything too thick, it's not gonna be super accurate to what your bow is actually like. So I'll just hook the release in there and just give it a couple pulls and see what it's set at, or at least roughly what it's set at, and it'll give you a good idea. They're all within about a pound, so it's gonna be not gonna be exactly perfect every time, but it'll give you a pretty rough idea of what your release is firing at. That way you can know what it's at, know how to set it, and know how to adjust it for hunting. This release that I'm using is the Stan Perfex. It's actually discontinued now, so you're gonna have some trouble finding it, but they did make an updated version of this. It's a little bit bigger and has a few small changes. It's called the Stan Onyx. I've shot that release too. It's a great one, so if you're in the market for buying a resistance release, check out the Stan Onyx. If you notice this small lanyard I have on mine, I just got a bunch of cheap ones off of Amazon and use it for hunting so I don't drop my release out of the tree stand. In all my hunting, I always want a surprise release, and this resistance release has helped me do that by helping me slow down, take my time, aim super precisely, and just execute a clean shot that isn't rushed. That's the main benefit of why I love using this release for bow hunting. Like I said, I've used it the past 2 seasons exclusively, and it's just been phenomenal for me. Not only is it an amazing training tool, but when set up properly and when learned properly with a lot of confidence, it can be phenomenal for bow hunting too. A few of the main takeaways that I want you to get from this video. First of all, if you've been experiencing target panic, rushing shots on animals, or just not having a ton of fun when you're shooting a bow because of anxiety on the shot, check out shooting a resistance release. Try to learn the process properly and just build confidence in it. Take your time, go slow, and do it the right way the first time, and I guarantee you'll be much better off than trying to rush through it or just pick it up and go hunting right away. The second point is that because of adrenaline, we're gonna have to set this release differently than we would for target shooting. Me personally, when I have it set for bow hunting, I usually can't take near as many shots when I'm practicing on the range. 10, 20, maybe 30 at the most, and my muscles just get so worn down. Whereas when I'm shooting it for target, I can shoot many more arrows than that, no problem. So because of that, you're not gonna be able to get quite as many arrows in on the range, but usually it's the first one that counts anyway in hunting. Be sure to check out the 2 videos linked in the description of this video. The first being the process and how to shoot a resistance release properly. The second one being how to set your tension on your resistance release. You're gonna want to check out both of those so you can learn how to shoot this release properly and have a fantastic hunt with it. If you have any questions about how to shoot a resistance release, which one to pick up and try, or any other questions regarding hunting with a resistance release, I'm here to help. I've been through a lot of struggles in the past, but thankfully the past couple years have been really awesome in the bow hunting woods for me with the use of the resistance release. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm always here to help, so drop a comment down below if you have a question. We'll see you in the next video.